Welcome back to another designer profile video, and in this one we're featuring the work of Staypuft. And we do not get a lot of courses from Staypuft. I think we've got 2 in this game, but they're always stunners when they do arrive. And this one, Old Sunset Field, from the very first Dream Team competition in this game, is probably for me his best. Now, what I particularly appreciate about Pufty's work has always been sculpting. I think he's a master at getting particularly bunkers looking fearsome but still fitting into the terrain and designing some really unique holes around the terrain that he has. As you can see here, we've got a really low profile course around these little abandoned oil fields, and you've got these low-lying lakes which are a really unique look and feel. But the bunkers have always been what stands out to me, and how they sit so well in the ground, and as a result create some really unique holes. So if we're looking at this one, I think the third, par 5, you've got this really cool bunker cluster into a mound to a green set behind the dune, and I think that's something you won't really find anywhere else. So we're going to dig into this course a little bit more. It's probably one, given that it came out really close to the start of this game, it's probably one that a lot of new guys haven't really played or dug into in a while, so hopefully well worth a little look. So the first hole is a mid-length par 4 that chokes down in a big way at the landing zone. Now what you'll see immediately is you're introduced to those little water flats on the left-hand side, but they're not really coming into play yet. You see them visually, which is a great way to introduce first feature. The bunkers are staggered both vertically and horizontally, and the one on the right is sculpted in such a way that you'll actually be blind into the green if you're too far right, so you really want to hit the dead centre of the fairway. Green slopes gently from front to back as well as hard from right to left, so you want to be careful about where you're landing the ball. It's a really strong opening hole. That seems to be pretty standard with these videos. We've got 2 best par 4s. The first of them, a drive ball par 4 fourth, and again you'll see those really imposing bunkers just off the left. Now, the awkward fairway cambering and green canting means that you might be tempted to go for this because the reward is so high, but the risk is big. Being in those bunkers either short or long is perilous, particularly with the pin placed where it is. But the layup is not trivial. You have to be in the right portion of the fairway to avoid being blind. It's a really clever and interesting hole. One of the other par 4s I loved was the 6th hole, which is a much longer par 4. It features a really sweeping view around this dogleg. And that's where this low profile kind of flatter course really comes into its own with these big views. The bunker cluster on the inside is awesome and huge, and that allows all of this space. The more you can cut off, the shorter a shot you have in to a green that kind of runs away from you as well. So if you have that longer approach, you can run it on down towards this pin, but you have to be so much more careful, and you've got a little less margin for error perhaps than with a shorter club. So it gives you different ways to play it without really prescribing how to go about it. For me, the par 5s were the real highlight for this course, and the best of a really strong set was the 7th. Now here you're playing dead at the out of bounds fence line, and we've started seeing many more par 5s using out of bounds as a hazard, and I think this was one of the very first of them. If you played at that, you had a shot at this pin which is over a little ravine, and the layup was complicated by some central bunkers and an interesting green complex that just jutted out into this ravine. It's a very cool natural hole that is different to how other people might have designed it, and therefore really interesting for me. We're also going to cheat a little bit and feature 2 par 3 holes. The 9th is one you can't ignore because of the feature of the clubhouse on the right, those 2 cavernous bunkers, again the star of the show, and then this green just benched in behind it, and I love the little blind pins just behind that bunker complex, which would play with your depth of perception a little bit. The green itself, subtle rather than in your face, but you want to be short of the pin where you can. The second of the par 3s that we're going to feature is the perfectly framed 13th. It's just a short hole, but water all around adds to the intrigue, and then you've got those little bunkers which are here much more low profile to match the land, and a green that you definitely want to be on the right spot for. It's a lovely, really pretty hole. The closing hole, the 18th, takes us once again back to those water flats and a really big carry, and I love the way the tee boxes were situated on the tiny little islands between them. You're trying to cut off as much of the corner as you can on a long par 4. The more that you could carry, the shorter your approach into this tiered green, and you wanted as short a club as you could do and to be as far over as you can to avoid those 2 bunkers just in front. It was with the clubhouse behind as well, it's a really stunning finishing hole and something that definitely provides a good climax to the round. So what can you take from this course and use in your own designs? Well, I think the first thing is that the routing is something I really like and appreciate because it's at the same time simple and complex. You've got the front 9, which largely is in this, well, is entirely within one half the course, and the back 9 is over here. So from that point of view, it might seem really straightforward. The kind of global layout of the course is pretty simply done and in a nice way that works well. However, within those, you'll notice that what he does really well to maximise some of those big views is, well, how we use those big features of the property and the kind of main standout features, these lakes, and then how he adds the bunkering. Well, they make sense. You've got a lake section here, and you've got kind of a dried up lake that he's used to connect, or dried up riverbed rather, that he's used to connect to here. So those two make sense. That's something you probably wouldn't notice unless you're looking for it, but it ties it all together really well. We've then got another little section over here which uses those again. So they're not just dotted around in a haphazard fashion, they make sense where they are. Now, how are they brought in? Well, you see them on the first, so you're introduced to them, not hitting straight at them or hitting over them on the first, but just introduced gently to them so that when you see them on the second and you're kind of cutting the corner a little bit more, it doesn't feel forced and it feels like you've already gotten used to these. We then have them kind of featuring big time on the climax of the round. So 12 and 13, they provide a really good kind of impetus to the middle of the back 9. We see them again 14 and 15. 16 goes away a little bit, 17 right into the heart of them, 18 right over them. Like, it definitely ramps up. So how you would use a big hazard and a big natural feature, I think, would be one of them. And away from that, things that I think he does really well are clusters of greens. This was something we tried to encourage people to do in this contest. Clustering greens close together, but how in no way that feels forced. What it does though is it brings you back to one location. So when you're putting on this one, you see this green and wonder what that's going to be, and then you approach it on here and you see, oh, there's this green, and we come back to that on 6. And I think that lends a bit more familiarity, which is great for an open plot like this. The same is true on the back 9. We have 13 and 15 playing really close together, and kind of how you can use your routing to get in and out of tight spots. We've got 3 greens really close together. Well, using a par 3 as a little connector between 2 of them, going away and then coming back once more is a really nice trick, because if you're coming at it from different directions, or with a par 3 you're never in danger of worrying about a tee shot landing zone, then that means that you can get in and out safely with no issues. I think the final things I would take away from this are, like, use kind of bits of the land. Don't be afraid to put bunkers where it looks like they might fit, if that fits with the course style. And kind of the artistic style of the bunkers, they look really, really good. They're really well sculpted. The plot as a whole is. And the mounding that comes with it is almost as much of a hazard, if not sometimes more than the bunkers. For example, on 9, if you're hitting to one of these pins, you're worried about hitting a downslope and pushing off more and trying to just clear the mound than you are the bunker. The bunker is never really in play, it's the mound beyond it that is the issue. The same was true on 8, I think you had this mound right in front. If you ended up hitting a drive and ending up down here with a pitch shot into this pin, it was kind of like good luck. It was really, really tough, particularly when we were playing on Master Swing at that time. So I think there's so much you can take from this. The creativity, obviously, the planting's really good. The big visuals are great. There's so much good on this course, and it deserves way more plays. So enjoy your rounds, give it a go.